We have to go farther and farther back. Like a giant worm, the entire division is withdrawing on the narrow roadways. It's supposed to go to Rostov, so actually behind the river Don. What a giant mess. On our way to the Elbrus, we've lost good men and drenched the Russian soil with our blood. We made unstoppable progress and literally swept the Russian tanks aside. And what's happening now? Stalingrad. One doesn't hear anything about it, or rather, many rumors. But no one knows exactly. Have they capitulated and the entire army is doomed? Or are they still breaking out? I don't believe that the Russians will treat our people well, especially at this time of the year. It will be absolutely terrible for the prisoners of war. I don't even want to think about what will happen if we are someday unable to get away. Fighting to the last and then rather accept death than starving to death under Ivan, or being bludgeoned to death. Not a pretty outlook, but it's of no use. It has to go on now. With Rosinante, we are driving parallel to the route of retreat in order to protect the marching columns from flanking attacks. It's bitterly cold, probably minus 20 degrees Celsius. We've been split up into small groups and thus are tasked to secure certain sectors or to check whether the small towns are still free from the enemy. Sometimes one has bad luck and scares up a pack of Russians from the small cottages. That's then usually quickly decided in our favor. 1 or 2 high explosive shells and the Russians are usually letting themselves be taken prisoner or bail out. Then again, when it goes to the next village. At the moment, we are also not taking turns anymore. The available crews have been assigned to the infantry and are already further ahead in order to take over the new vehicles which are supposed to arrive at the front. We are really having problems with the weather. The roadways are partially frozen so solid that even tank tracks with clats are unable to keep the tanks on the road, and one slides off sideways on occasion. For a driver, it's a difficult job to keep the tank under control. On our way to the next waypoint, our tank starts to spit and sputter. We stop, engine damage, or it's the fuel. Frantically, the driver, together with the radio operator, is looking for the problem. Our combat group, however, has to keep going. We agree that we'll continue looking for the problem. There are also comrades behind us. We are not going to be here all alone. After an hour, we have located the cause. The fuel pump is damaged. We won't be able to simply repair that. Although the repair unit is still with heavy haulers at the end of the supply train, we first need to make it to the main roadway. Therefore, an emergency hand pump is connected. The radio operator now has to pump the fuel manually to the engine. We managed to get the engine restarted and turn in toward the main roadway. We are in good spirits to get along with support. Later the main road, we wait for the technical platoon and hope that there will be a vehicle along soon. Slowly, the vehicles here are also becoming less. That's always a sign that the bulk of the unit has already passed us. Finally, after 3 hours, a heavy hauler with several tank mechanics arrives. The first lieutenant takes a look at the problem and explains to us that they didn't have the spare part here, but he'd be able to tow us to the next staging point. So again, take the fuel pump by the hand, and it's taking a perceived eternity until we hooked up to the heavy hauler. In tow, it's now going close to another 50 kilometers to the makeshift repair area of the regiment. Especially set up so we don't have to leave any vehicles behind. That's really a clever plan to establish these supply and repair points. Now it's slowly getting dark, but the busy hands are in good spirits that we'll have the fuel pump fixed in no time. I'm standing up on the turret and watching the surroundings. Always 30 minutes out in the cold wind, then change up, and one is able to get warmed up by the cannon stove a bit. Today it won't go any further. We can make ourselves comfortable with a night in a small barn with a repair troop and a few infantry soldiers. Our commander returns with new orders. We are to remain at the supply base until all vehicles have passed through, and then depart at the rear guard. That's really something once again. The devil always take the hindmost. I just hope the Russian is taking his time. The night remains quiet and can only hear a few planes in the sky, but they are not tossing anything onto our noggins. The next morning the wind has let up and the sun is showing itself. Bitterly cold, but somehow beautiful nevertheless. Only sporadic vehicles are still coming through, and then at some point, none. The planned retreat is apparently continuing without major problems. A Fieseler Stork reconnaissance plane flies by and drops a message with a smoke signal. Quickly the smoking container is retrieved and we take a look what's in the store for us. Depart and abandon the supply post. The comrades are all getting busy and are packing up. We're getting ready to march, and after half an hour we are ready for departure. With our long barrel, we are the last vehicle. Therefore, I get the order to turn the gun to the rear, so it is secure to astern. In that way we rumble off. It's supposed to go back another 50 kilometers until we are the large bridges near Rostov. We are just taken off. The other vehicles have already left a few minutes ago, when I can already spot Ivan with binoculars. Their tanks and infantry are pushing themselves right behind us. But here we're not supposed to engage, yet. We'd need a better shooting position. It goes further until the lieutenant has identified a good position in the terrain. Now we will burn 1 or 2 shells into their skin in order to disengage again. Over the radio we announce where we positioned and that we are now going to send over a few greetings to the Russian. He has certainly spotted us already, but we are not running away and wait. Time is a factor. No prolonged firefights, brief skirmishes and moving on again. Once we are across the bridges, the Russian won't be able to go further anyway. Already I have the first tank in the crosshair, a T-34, 1,000 meters half left. Fire, shouts the commander, and with a thunderclap the shell flies over to the Russian. Missed. Damn it. Hold a bit lower. And that one is right onto the turret. That one's gone. Acquire the next one right away. After 2 shots, that one's also a column of smoke. The lieutenant slaps me on the shoulder, happy about the 2 kills, but is also wondering why I need 2 shots. I explain that the optic is off. Seems to have misaligned itself somehow, perhaps due to the cold. It doesn't matter, gone is gone, and we are seeing to it to link up. The repair unit and the armored personnel carriers are slowly underway. We've soon caught up with them. That doesn't help through since there is new firing position to locate and the retreat to cover. As we are standing there, we hear battle noise. Then one can already make out vehicles which are approaching us. Here we go, Rudolf, remarks the commander, and the main gun is loaded. I'm glued to the optic and see several vehicles driving toward us. No tanks, but difficult to recognize. They are driving like the devil. The first vehicle move into the sight. I hear the commander say I should fire at my own will. I'm just about to fire when I see a green identification signal go up. Not a second too soon. That means there are our own troops coming in wild flight from Ivan. Now mortar fire is laid onto the friendly vehicles and apparently 2 have already been hit. We have to go at it. Abandon our firing position and off we go. We speed across the snow-covered meadows toward our comrades. Closing in at 300 meters, we can already see the Russians' BT-7 and T-34s on attack. No more mortar fire, but our troops have already somewhat been hit. We come to a shooting stop and fire past our own troops at the Reds. 1 BT-7 is already on fire. Now the T-34s have spotted us and are opening up on us. Skilled, we make a change in position. Shooting stop, fire. Change position, and already the second enemy tank is hit. A 20mm anti-aircraft gun is shooting at the Russians, apparently an Air Force anti-aircraft unit. Indeed, it is 3 20mm on half-tracks, 1 field car and 2 trucks. 1 half-track has already been severely hit. 1 truck is junk due to mortar shelling. But together we repel the Russians and secure the comrades. When the situation has settled down, we climb out and help. 30 men in total. 1 truck is left behind, 1 half-track we hook onto our Rosinante and hurry to get going. 5 wounded and 2 dead. Our comrades have already suffered. The officers have a talk and it becomes apparent that they had guarded the planes on a combat airstrip to the end and just then be able to disengage. Together we get on the way. Now at least we also have some anti-aircraft. That way the Russian planes can't hurt us. Apparently the Russians also aren't in pursuit. Thus we are moving economically slow toward the fallback location. Unfortunately, one encounters vehicles on the road here, which apparently had been abandoned since the comrades had no possibility for repairs. The repair unit is not driving back to pick up vehicles due to the situation with the enemy. But at least it's not tanks that are sitting here, just a few armored personnel carriers and trucks. We stop and take a look whether there is anything that can be done with onboard tools, but we have no possibility to recover or repair them. Therefore, we decide to destroy the vehicles. We load, and after a few shots, the armored personnel carriers are burning out. The 20mm renders the trucks unusable. Through clouds of smoke, it goes further toward the river. According to the map, it's another 20 kilometers until we reach the last fallback position, and it's about time since fuel is slowly running low and the wounded probably need a doctor. The roadway, however, is getting worse and worse. We try, despite the slick surface, to somehow stay in the middle of the roadway. Suddenly, our tank begins to slide, and slowly it's going in the direction of a wide frozen drainage ditch. We climb onto the turret and attempt to release the connection to the 20mm. The Air Force soldiers were already thinking alike and open up the tow hook. But Rosinante slides into the ditch. We jump off. Backwards, it breaks into a ditch. The engine compartment runs full of water. Nice mess. We send the anti-aircraft unit further back, but the Air Force lieutenant insists on staying here with a 20mm to support us in an emergency. So here we go, and we are waiting for the heavy haulers to arrive and to get us out. As luck would have it, from the southwest, vehicles are approaching us. Towed tractors with anti-tank guns attached, 3 units at once. Well, everything is meeting up here. We briefly explain what happened. 1 anti-tank gun is put into position to provide security. The heavy haulers put steel cables over pulleys, and 1 hauler is placed sideways as a stop. With considerable throttle, our tank is pulled from the ditch. Now we must see to it to get the water out of the engine compartment quickly, without it all freezing up immediately. The anti-tank crew has a Russian volunteer along who explains we should pour some fuel into a pan and light that on fire underneath the engine. Not for long, but long enough so that the heat would bring the engine up to temperature and remove some of the wetness. We arm ourselves with buckets and fetch some water to put out any fire in case something go wrong. We light the pan. A lot of heat is rising. I'm not feeling too good about it. But the flames aren't getting to the engine, but just heat up the lower plate. Already steam is rising and we signal the driver to start up the tank. After the third attempt, the old girl is running and we are really glad to have gotten away so well. So everything is packed up again, hitched up, and our mixed lot is getting underway. Toward evening, we pass the security details and then we are finally able to set up our night quarter in the makeshift waypoint, a small Russian city. 2 more days, then we should be in Rostov.